Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back to my channel, Reza Agung Fernanda. I am from University of Lampung. This is my final exam video, so today I'm gonna tell you guys about public issues, and I'm taking topic about public infrastructure. So just let's begin. Infrastructure is all basic structures and facilities, both physical and social. For example, like a building, roads, and electricity supplies, required for the operation of community or company activities. Another opinion says that the meaning of infrastructure is all types of facilities needs by the general public to support various communities' activities in daily life. In the other words, infrastructure is all facilities, both physical and non-physical, that are built by the government and individuals to meet the basic needs of society in the social and economic sphere. Infrastructure generally refers to the physical development of public facilities such as roads, airport, ports, electricity, telecommunication, clean water, sewage treatment, hospitals, schools, and so on. In addition, infrastructure also refers to technical matters that support community economic activity, such as modes of transportation, distribution of goods and service, and others. Okay, next is definition of infrastructure according to expert. First, and Gregory Mankiw, 2003. In economics, the meaning of infrastructure is a form of public capital, which consists of public roads, bridge, sewer system, and other, as an investment made by the government. Second, Neil S. Grich, 1998. The notion of infrastructure is a physical system that provides drainage, irrigation, transportation, buildings, and other public facilities needed to meet various kind of basic human needs, both social and economic needs. Okay, next is the types of infrastructure. From the explanation above, it is known that infrastructure is an asset, physical and non-physical, designed in the system to be able to serve the community. Referring to the definition of infrastructure, several types of infrastructure are three. First is hard infrastructure. It's like a highway, airport, railway lines, port, irrigation, canals, and other. Second, bicycle infrastructure, non-loud. It's like a provision of clean water, provision of electric supply, provision of telecommunication networks, and provision of energy supply. The third is soft infrastructure. Infrastructure is all that related to system, values, norm, and regulation and public service provided by various parties, especially the government. Some of which include in soft infrastructure is work ethic, traffic regulation, quality public service, legal law, and edge. Okay, for the next material is infrastructure function. Infrastructure serves as a support for community activities. Infrastructure function to facilitate and support and smooth running of economic activities, distribution of goods and service. There are several examples of infrastructure and their function. First, a bridge serves a link between one place and another. The place can be an area or a city. Second, the road function to facilitate transportation for delivery the route of materials to the factory, and then for the distribution for the market until it reached the community. Third, the house function as a residence, a place to take shelter and do activities. Fourth, hospital function as a public health service. And last, recreation place like city parks for playgrounds, stadium serve as entertainment venues and sport venues. And infrastructure also has many benefits. Among them, benefit in the social, economic, and cultural fields. In the social field, infrastructure is usable as a means of communication. If there is no infrastructure, an area will be isolated and cannot socialize with other areas. Areas will isolated, networks will be cut off from outside areas, so that life of the people in that area will be disrupted. In the economic sector, infrastructure is usable as a vehicle for buying and selling transactions. Besides that, infrastructure also functions as a means of connecting in distributing production and service. If the infrastructure is smooth, then economic activity will run smoothly, so that people can live in prosperity and communities' economic will increase. The field of infrastructure culture can be usable to become one of the culture itself. An example is traditional house. In this case, the infrastructure in the form of traditional houses built in accordance with local culture. Okay, next is components and example of infrastructure. Infrastructure built by the government and the private sector consists of various components that support one another. According to the P3KT or Integrated City Infrastructure Development Program, the following are some of the infrastructure component is first, city planning urban, second, rejuvenation, third, new city development, fourth, city roads, fifth, drinking water, sixth, drainage, seven, wastewater, eight, garbage, nine, control of flooding, 10, housing, 11, improvement field, 12, improvement infrastructure, market area, and home rental. Meanwhile, according to APWA, or American Public Works Association, the infrastructure component consists of the following is first, the system of water supplies, like a dam, reservoirs, reservoir waters, transmission and distribution, water treatment facilities. Second, wastewater management system like collection, treatment, disposal, and recycling. Third, solid waste management facilities and management system. Fourth, flood control facilities, irrigation, drainage, water catchment areas. Fifth, cross waters facilities and navigation system. Sixth, transportation facilities like road, railways, airport, including traffic signs and control facilities. 7. Public transit system. 8. Electricity system, like production and distribution to the public. 9. Communication facilities and system. 10th, natural gas facilities, like public building like school and hospital, public housing facilities, and recreation areas like city parks, playground, and stadium. And referring to the benefit of infrastructure for the community, several of the components mentioned above can be grouped into three categories. First, components that generate input for the community. Some fall into this category. For example, is electricity supplies, clean water facilities. And second, components that take output from community. Some that fall into this category, for example, is drainage, channel, landfills, and sanitation. And the third, component that can provide input and take output from the community. Some that fall into this category, for example, is communication networks and highway. Okay, the next is infrastructure problem. When the state of infrastructure in a country is weak, it means that the country's economy is operating in a very inefficient manner. Logistic costs are very high, resulting in companies and business that lack competitiveness due to high business costs. Not to mention the emergence of social injustice. For example, it is difficult for some residents to visit health facility, or it is difficult for children to go to school because the travel is too difficult or expensive. Infrastructure development and macroeconomic development should have a reciprocal relationship, because infrastructure development leads to economic expansion through a multiplier effect. Meanwhile, economic expansion creates the need to expand existing infrastructure to absorb the increasing flow of goods and people circulating through the economy. Inadequate infrastructure also affect the attractiveness of the investment climate in Indonesia. Foreign investors are full of concern about investing in Indonesia. For example, in manufacturing facilities in Indonesia, if the electricity supply is uncertain or transportation costs are very high, according to the data by the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry or Kadin Indonesia, out of the total expenditure of companies in Indonesia, around 17% is absorbed by logistic costs. In fact, in the economic of neighboring countries, this figure is just under 10%. This thing clearly make investors think twice before deciding to invest in Indonesia. Land acquisition, one of the main constraints of infrastructure development apart from funding issues. The biggest obstacle related to infrastructure development in Indonesia appears to be land acquisition. The land acquisition process is a very complicated process, from a time-consuming and costly, as many landowners refuse to sell their land to infrastructure project developer. Many Indonesian farmers are reluctant to sell their land to power plants or road developer or landowner asking a very high price for their land. Source of funding for investing in infrastructure in Indonesia, perhaps it's the biggest problem related to infrastructure development in Indonesia, is to find all the necessary funds. Based on 2015 until 2019 National Medium-Term Development Plan, or we call it RPGMN, a total of 4,769 trillion rupiah is needed to meet the infrastructure development target by 2019. However, the central and local government can only contribute 41% for financing, while companies, state-owned companies, or we call it BUMN, can only contribute up to 22%. This means that 37% of the required fund, around 1,752 trillion rupiah, must come from the private sectors. Okay, and the last is my analysis from all the case above. In my opinion, so far infrastructure development in Indonesia is still lacking to support all social, economic, and cultural activities in Indonesia. A small example that there are many people in rural areas whose infrastructure is rarely touched by the local government, such as there is only one access road to carry out their activity, but the road that is being traversed is also not feasible to do heavy damage. It's like a candidate pair for region and deputy region of Tanah Bumbu, South Kalimantan. Zairullah Azhar Muhammad Rusli highlighted the problem of poor infrastructure in rural areas, starting from damaged roads to problem with the availability of clean water. It is always a scourge in his area, apart from occurring in Trimulia Village, Sungai Loban District, Tanah Bumbu, South Kalimantan. Infrastructure problems have also become a problem in almost every village Zairullah visited when he was campaigning for the 2020 Tanah Bumbu Pilkada. He also said there were still many residents who have not enjoyed electricity facilities from BLN. One example is in Trimulia Village. Residents there admit that it is difficult to pay the fee to install the meter, which is considered too expensive. So, in my opinion, the regional and central government should pay more attention to infrastructure in small villages as well. Not only focus on building large infrastructure, because small infrastructure in rural areas can also encourage economic progress in Indonesia. And maybe Indonesia's government should fix their infrastructure first, so that can make investors come to Indonesia if all the public facilities are in well condition. Okay, maybe that's all for me. If I got a lot of mistake in my presentation, I really sorry. And thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video. And see you bye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.